Hello, I'm Richard Chambers, Senior Internal Audit Advisor at Audit Board, and welcome to another in my continuing series, Agents of Change. I'm joined today by Amanda Pope. Amanda has more than 15 years of experience and currently serves as the Senior Vice President of Audit and Risk at InComm Payments. Amanda, thank you for joining us on this installment of Agents of Change.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
You know, Amanda, in my book, Agents of Change, I take the position that internal auditors should seek to drive change in their organizations. I define agents of change in the profession as those internal auditors who are catalysts for transformation that creates value within the organizations they serve. What is your view on internal auditors as agents of change? Is that how you would define change agents in our profession?
I think it is a great way to describe internal auditors. I do think sometimes we need to take a step back, though, and look to say we are transforming and we are making change, even if it's not immediate, even if it takes years. Your level of change and your movement with change has to depend on the company culture and how you can help move change along while still being within the bounds of that culture.
Right. I think I sort of define change more in terms of outcomes than outputs. Some internal auditors, if they don't see immediate change, they get frustrated. But really, it's, as you say, it should be a longer term view that you're helping the organization to evolve and to improve.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And also understanding you may not always get the credit for the change, but you know deep inside that you were the one helping drive those conversations and helping management reach those conclusions, even if it's their idea, and that's fine too.
No, that's a great way to look at it. You know, in those organizations you've served at, did your board members and executive management embrace the idea of internal auditors as change agents? Do you find that they value assurance or advice more?
I would say every board has valued internal audit. I think the level of value put on internal audit varies, again, depending on culture. And sometimes you're trying to stake your claim in saying, we are new to this company, but we will add value, and we do add value. So that has been a little bit of a stretch in some organizations, is trying to get the board to receive that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, having been a CAE myself over the course of a career with many different organizations, I know how challenging it can be when you get a new audit committee chair, a new CEO, and maybe they come in and they've got a different view of internal audit than maybe your last one did, and you've kind of got your work cut out for you to kind of orient them and help them to appreciate what you can do.
Right. And establish just the trust also, that trust is in what we're doing. We know what we're doing, and it will result in something at the end, and hopefully something good and of value.
Oh, that's absolutely true. You know, the past 3 years have been an incredibly disruptive period for the world in general and business and government organizations in particular. How have you ensured that your internal audit function has stayed abreast of the risks that face your organization?
One is making sure we've maintained our seat at the table. And I know a lot of people say that, but really if you're not in those conversations where they're talking strategically about what are our plans for the business going forward and what do we want to do in the future, what is our long-term plan, you're not able to really understand how different environmental impacts could negatively impact your business and those plans.
Right. Let me ask you a question. So seat at the table is so important. In my book, Trusted Advisors, I talk a lot about that. Trusted advisors are always invited to the table, but working remotely, as we all have been, as many have been anyway, for the last couple of years, you think it's been harder to maintain that seat at the table, or at least harder to leverage it for all the right outcomes?
That's a great question. I personally have not felt that it's been more difficult, but I think that also is a testimony to my relationship with our executives and the relationship that I have with those making those decisions, and them actually calling me instead of me having to force myself into the conversation. And also, being remote makes it a bit more serious and important to make sure you're having those touch points with executives or senior management every so often so that they don't forget about you.
Amanda, one of the top challenges CAEs are facing in 2023 is recruiting and retaining talent. Is that a challenge that you've had to deal with? And if so, what strategies have you relied on to recruit and retain the best?
Besides just sending positive vibes into the universe, I would say maintaining and retaining our talent has really been focused on making sure that our team members are empowered to do their job, that they're trusted, that they know that they're trusted, and also just keeping those touch points, again, more consistent and more deliberate. As far as attracting new talent, I feel pretty blessed that I haven't had to do much recruiting in the past couple of years since COVID, so I can't speak to that very much. Our team is, I would say, 95% remote. We go into the office to meet up in person and to make sure that we're maintaining our team consensus and our team feel.
Really good chief audit executives realize the world has changed, the desires of their team have changed, the mechanics of the workplace have changed, and they're able to adapt to it, I think.
And even retaining our talent, I know that if I forced my team to come back into the office, I would lose a lot of my top talent. And it's much more important to me to retain the people that understand our business and our methodology than it is to force everyone into the office.
Absolutely. Very, very, very smart, I think. Before internal auditors can be credible change agents, I believe they have to be able to walk the talk. That is, be change agents within internal audit itself. Do you agree with that? And what initiatives as a CAE have you undertaken to transform the internal audit function at InComm?
Absolutely, I agree with that. I always say that internal audit lives in a glass house. We have to follow the company's policies and procedures, and whatever else we're expecting of our audit customers or clients, or however you want to frame it, we have to do the same thing. We have to be the examples of that. And so one of the ways that we've been transformative is the working remotely, but also we've implemented Audit Board in a way that we're hoping to generate more dashboards that'll help management start talking about different things a little bit more. Like issue management is one of my big hot topics,
Right.
But just driving the conversation around issue management and how that impacts the organization.
Right. No, I think that's another good strategy, and I think that's what it takes in this day and age to be able to kind of keep connected with executives and management, is for them to know that we appreciate and understand the challenges they face. So the research that we did as we were getting ready to write Agents of Change identified 4 overarching characteristics of change agents: business acumen, a strategic mindset, relationship-centric, and innovative. Do you agree with that list? Is there something that you think we missed? But those are the 4 we think are the most important at being change agents.
Well, I think those 4 capture it, because when I hear change agent, I also think flexibility, and I think that's very much captured in each of those pillars. Because if you're not flexible, you aren't going to build great relationships.
Right.
You're not going to be able to learn people's personality styles. And innovation requires flexibility because you have to be open to change,
Right.
to innovate. So I do believe those 4 pillars are very well defined.
Finally, let me ask you this. I get asked all the time, what do I think the future of internal audit holds? And I'm not a fortune teller. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do have some thoughts about what the next decade might have for internal audit. Let me ask you, if I ask you to pull out your crystal ball, what do you think the biggest challenge and the biggest opportunity for internal audit is over these next 10 years?
Well, I know every business is very different, but in our business, we're a service provider, and we rely on a lot of vendors as well. And so with the changes in the economy and the changes in the environment in general, the political and physical environment, we also are experiencing more scrutiny on vendors, and those with data especially. So what I hope internal audit will be able to do in the future is maybe streamline some of the second and third lines of defense to make it easier for corporations and businesses to manage all of their requirements and expectations, not just from regulators, but also from our business partners. One thing we do is we try to consolidate all of our assurance functions. So whether it be an external auditor or our internal audit team, we want to make sure that we're managing that so that we're not going to the customer multiple times. We're trying to reduce audit fatigue in that manner. So I just thinking through how we can continue to be efficient for companies in general while meeting the same goals and objectives is going to be critical over the next few years, because I think the scrutiny on vendors and data holders will just continue to increase.
I think that's very true. Amanda, thank you so much for joining us today on our Agents of Change series, and for sharing all of your insights on what it takes to lead an organization during such a disruptive era.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us on this latest episode of Agents of Change.